All right. Hey, I think I'm live. So let's see if that's true. We're gonna check my signal here real quick. Then we'll update social media real fast, and then we'll get to work here for a little bit. So, checking in on my channel to see if we are good to go. Checking in on my channel to see if we... Yeah, sounds like we're good to go. Let me drop that down here a little bit, and there. And then we'll grab the link here real fast. It only takes a moment for me to do this, so if you're already familiar with the channel and you're here in the future, you can skip ahead a minute and I'll catch up with you on the other side. For everyone else that's out here in time space here now, my name is Phil. Hey, what's up? I create role-playing games, I illustrate them, I publish them online, and we are creating an adventure for the Eberron campaign setting called Crystals of Mabar. It's for characters level 7 and 8. It takes place in the Carnwood of Karrnath on the continent of Khorvaire, and we're fighting necromancers, undead, and demons from the plane of Mabar to prevent the world from being overrun by evil. So I've finished doing my social updates. Hold on, no I didn't. Reopen here, here, almost there. Almost there, stay on target. Remove. There we go. Okay, cool. Now we're up to date. Blop, blop, blop. And let's see. Let's fix my screen. And we'll get started here. So if you think this stuff is cool, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications of when we're live in the future. Here's a bunch of other books that I've already created that are on the DMsGuild for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. Here's the entire playlist of all 500 some odd episodes. And yeah, let's get to work. So switching gears here. We made this book cover around episode 40. You can jump into the playlist and check it out if you're interested. But right now we are making another Bob Ross style environment map. So not to belabor the issue at all, let's just dive right back into it. So let's see, here's our current layer. Let's make a new layer. Maybe like this. Just gonna keep adding in forest here at the bottom of the mountain range. So we'll do this for another few ticks, and then we'll add in homesteads and then the fields. Feels pretty good. And then we're going to grab and drag. It's a little bit of a time-consuming process to do this, but I think the results are worth it. All these brushes that I use that are on my Patreon, you can click on the link in the description down below. You don't have to be a paying member to get access to them. I do ask that you follow. See what I got going on, because this is just one piece of many that we are working on. Oops, I need to straighten that edge out. Where'd that come from? Hold on, I need to fix that. Tap, shift, drag. That's how I make sure I keep the lines straight. Tap, shift, drag. So I do that like a billion times. and it ends up looking like forest. So this is the process that we're going through. It's tedious. I'm going to use an eraser here with a 10% opacity. So I'm going to trim away at some of this here just to thin it down a little bit. We want to get rid of the bottoms of the trees, have those fade in, because there's going to be more and more layers of other trees that are overlaying on top of it. You know, I'm gonna switch to the cloud brush. This is a little more gentle. And if we're to be at around 20% strength here, just trim away at that a little bit. There we go. Smudge upward, blend in that fade. There. Trim away the bottom. I hit, push up. God, that looks good. Ah, that just looks good. Such good forest. Alright, I mean, we just do layer after layer after layer until the forest looks like a forest. I'm going to increase the size a little bit at this point. We're at 150 pixels on this brush, and we're just layering in the same effect. Just moving our way forward in the in the canvas. So we tap and drag down. Like that. Fade off over here. And we do the same tap and drag. I did make the brush a little bit bigger. We should extend this on like this a little bit. There. There's the little spires in it. It just looks so good. So they came out with a new Unearthed Arcana yesterday for arcane subclasses in Dungeons & Dragons 5e24. And so I run a design stream on Thursday, on Mondays and Tuesday nights, and Monday and Thursday nights like last night, and Tuesday and Friday lunchtimes. And we're going to have another lunchtime design session today, looking at some of these subclasses. Last night we resolved the arcane, the Arcana domain for clerics, and the arcane. We revised the arcane archer using the martial power system, and we're going to go through additional. We're going to go through more of the subclasses, and then if we can get through all the subclasses today, then we'll move back into the Forgotten Realm subclasses that they were proposing and translate those into the mana system. Feels good. And now we, once we fade the bottoms, we drag and pull upward. We initially clicked and dragged downward to create the trees, and now we're fading the trees by clicking and dragging upward to take away, because we faded the bottom of the trunks. So now we're fading them back in, and it just creates additional layers of positive and negative space. Do this enough times and you have a forest. So another layer, and we're going to increase the brush size again. Hey, what's going on, Tyler? Excellent. I'm glad it works. I have to take your word for it, of course. Don't see any color. But I'm glad that I am getting more good color picking. I've been very blessed. Mossy's splash art is usually a full price. A full piece. Ah. Yeah, here's the composition that we're going to use. So once we finish the back here, we'll have some homesteads here. We'll have like tulips or some sort of like wildflower field here, and then we'll have a foreground grassy knoll with some shrubbery and then like some rosemary bushes over here. So it'll end up being a pretty little glade. This is a in the appendix when we're looking at the homestead plot hook, where your characters are invited by farming settlers that the characters know, and they're invited. Hey, we have open ground here for people to settle if you're interested in, you know, quitting your life of adventuring or need some place to lay low. We have farmland here for if you want it. And so you go through the adventure and you quell the undead and the demons and the necromancers that are running around inside here. And once you do, peace is restored to the community and everything is hunky-dory. So I wanted a peaceful aftermath sort of piece. How you doing today, Tyler? Goddamn. Yeah. It's there's a lot of potential for this one. This one could be pretty good. So adding our filigree in, you can see it trails off here, so I need to make sure I don't skimp on the edges. I could actually probably increase the size of the piece overall to have it just run off the edge of the page. It's kind of an arbitrary size right now. We'll see how it turns out. But I love doing environment paintings like this. It is my absolute favorite to do. So I was contemplating what's my next move, because off screen we're in the process of just basically dropping maps into pages nestled amongst the description text of all the different areas. And I'm like, what are we going to do with these large spaces that we have in the appendix? And the muse immediately came back and says, dude, you should just do a bunch of environmental art. If you have an excuse, if you have a way or an excuse to do an environment piece on any given page, do that. And I'm like, okay. So it's we have maps. Maps are the top priority for like images inside the adventure. Obviously, maps are critical. So maps are the highest priority. Environmental pieces are secondary. Creature and NPC tokens are third, unless a spot on the page specifically is talking about that monster or NPC, in which case they have top priority, kind of like the maps. And then from there, it's like equipment and items. And then from there, it's like interaction scenes, like characters interacting with each other and stuff, which are, I think, the least important. So that should help collapse some time frames a little bit, as well as inject a little bit more just flavor, like just flavor. Environments create flavor. Like you could create an interactive scene between like adventurers fighting monsters and stuff like that, but there's no guarantee that scene is necessarily going, unless it's a specific like combat scenario on a specific map. We already have the map for that scenario with the monsters inserted into them, but otherwise there's no guarantee that like your characters are going to get into a fight with, you know, rot grubs over here or whatever. So, like, combat scenes like that in an adventure aren't nearly as important, unless it's like a boss fight or something like that. In which case, it's like, well, yeah, boss fight. I mean, that's like pivotal battle. I could see doing illustrations for that. 10% opacity. Let this fade in. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. I think I want to let that sit. Feels pretty good. That's it. Okay, great. Let's just add on another layer. Again, we're just stacking up layers. I actually feel like I want to, being mindful of that far edge there. I feel like I want to take the entirety of this. Hold on real quick. Let's see. What's up? Hey, Steve. It's good to see you. Let's expand that. Yeah, that feels better. Spill off the page. And now I can shift this over a little bit more. There. Because we have the text line here, which means that technically everything from here and over is going to end up fading. We're going to have that the page bleed, the fade out that we have. So it's not going to get in the way of the text. The text is top priority. So this is actually just the environment that we need to work in inside of here. So I'm just doing this runoff just to help make sure that the piece doesn't just end at the edge of what space we have defined. If I overextend the border, I can trim it down and it'll just feel a little bit more natural. So I think this is a good decision to upsize on that just a little bit. So speaking of upsizing things just a little bit, let's increase our brush size 2 ticks. And we'll drop these in here. And then we'll drop it down a size. And then we'll drop it down another size. And then we'll drop it another size. Size that we were, and our brush 1 2 3, make that bigger as well. Tap drag, tap drag, tap drag, tap drag, tap drag. Do this 1,000 times and we have a forest. We tap drag down and then we erase the bottom a little bit, and then we tap drag up to blend the faded base upward into the tree line so that we create these neat little pockets in here that create the negative space that helps define one tree from the other. But with so this brush that I'm using, you can see as I drag it, right, it just automatically creates this like conifer needle effect. Again, these brushes are on my Patreon. Here's a really big version of it just as a single tap. So when you do a series of them, it just creates this thicket. And again, this is another brush that I had to devise over time of studying Bob Ross paintings to see, because he just does like a little 1-inch brush. He just taps and drags and creates a similar effect, but we don't have the same. The Photoshop tools don't have the same physical dexterity and canvas interaction that Bob can get out of his wet on wet techniques of oil painting on a treated canvas. So we have to find a way to break them down, like break down his brush strokes and translate the technique into something that actually works in the Photoshop program or Krita or Clip Art Studio, whatever your flavor choice is. But for me, it's always Photoshop. Photoshop is my weapon of choice. So we erase at the bottom here a little bit. What's up, text? Yeah. In 2017, I realized that the weakest pieces in my the weakest elements of my compositions was environment. And I was seeing that because my environments were weak, I was creating like white space. I wasn't adding details or environmental stuff very much to the characters and whatever scenery that I was doing. I was shying away from environments. I'm like, well, I need a way to figure out how to do environmental pieces so that I can ground these illustrations into some sort of a reality, give them a place to dwell. And I watched Bob Ross a whole bunch as a little kid, playing Legos on Saturday morning when they were airing first airing of episode like season 23, episode 6 in like March of March of like 1981. Like that was when I was playing Legos as a little kid, watching Saturday morning cartoons growing up. And I would get up early enough that when I turned on TV, I got up so early to start my Saturday day, because I played with Legos like until like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I would start at 6 a.m. and just start building, and I'd do it in the family room, and I would turn on the TV for Saturday morning cartoons. But since I was up earlier than Saturday morning cartoons would start, I was like, what am I going to watch? So I'd flip around the channels, and eventually I stumbled into Bob Ross being played that early in the morning. I'm like, oh, okay, this guy is relaxing. I can listen to him, and he doesn't get in the way of my Legos. It's not very distracting. So I just started listening to Bob Ross as a little kid. Like I was 5, so I started watching Bob Ross when I was 5 years old, and so when I got to this point in 2017, I'm like, I need to up my environmental game. What am I gonna do? And it's like, well, Bob Ross is a thing. Let's do that. I just dropped the smudge on my smudge brush. I dropped the strength down to 40%. It was 100%. I just dropped it down to 40% so I can get some better fades going in here. But yeah, that's part of my origin story. There you go, Phil exclusive. Thank you. I've had an interesting life. I think when I die and I check out and I have a chance to look at it all back, I think me and the angels are gonna have a nice draw from cognac and just say, yeah, that was a good time. It's amazing when you allow yourself the opportunity to appreciate the life that you've had and the moments that have been that compose it, how well you can see how all the pieces connect together. Like when I started doing all this, I didn't think I'd be reaching back to when I was a little kid, like pulling from those experiences, like how relevant they were back then. Like the most peaceful time in my life was as a little kid, just sitting there and building shit. So I'm 50 now, and I've circled back around and doing Bob Ross stuff, building castles and monsters and D&D stuff. It's been a blessed life. You know, full of its own monsters and tragedies. Who isn't? But I can see the bigger picture. The further back in my own history I reach and find things that are relevant and inspiring for me to take next steps in my current life, the more I have to acknowledge that everything in our life is carefully orchestrated to be able to create results for ourselves. That it takes decades for some of these echoes to reverberate and become present again, but it's pretty amazing. I think maybe like another 2 layers and we should be good. Let's look at our composition again. Yeah, see the homesteads are here. So if I drop in just another couple tree lines, we should be good. And I'm actually going to shift gears. So I'm going to drop these all into down the mountainside. And now we're going to, I don't need this hill anymore. So I can turn that to trash. That is now my trash folder. And we're doing tree line. We're going to call it tree line. Hillside inside of the tree line. And now we're going to do the same technique, but we're going to ramp up the size of the brushes like this. What's up? Sorry, with Emerald, like 4 years, I've been in love with cooking for as long as I can remember. Oh, that's awesome! It wasn't until Ratatouille that I just knew it's who I am. That's awesome, Tyler. I know a lot of Tyler fame, a lot of yours, because she's also doing a lot of these. Like, hey, fantastic! Well, I'm glad that this is adding value. I'm going to increase the strength of this smudge to 60%. I gotta keep these edges. I gotta keep these edges straight. Tap and then drag. Kearney, tap, then drag. Thank you. Tap, then drag. Tap and drag. Tap and drag. Tap and drag. Tap and drag. Yeah, so 2017, I realized that I needed to up my environment game. Got into reconnected with, wow, that was weird. Reconnect with Bob Ross. I did about 120 different Bob Ross paintings in 2017 and spilling into 2018 to basically decipher how to translate his techniques into digital so that so that they would actually be useful. You know, again, the goal here was to be able to integrate his techniques into the art I was doing. Let's erase at these edges a little bit, bring that down, and I think it was pretty successful. So it really helped explore the idea of like, how do I manipulate the Photoshop tools to create effects, like be more interested in what is the end result that I can produce with the tools that I'm using, as opposed to how to say it, like it's not the right word, but like less emphasis on the techniques that I'm using and more and lean more into what's the end result look like, you know, like a lot of artists question whether or not it's ethical, or are they a sham if they use photo references and stuff. It's like, of course you need photo references. You don't have a perfect recall of what an ant looks like. You need to be able to reference the anatomy structure of that ant to make sure that you get it right, you know. So there's a big difference between like being an art purist, like sometimes I talk about like not using a gradient screen to go from from a dark color at the top to a lighter color at the bottom. I prefer to actually manually go through and work that gradient in organically instead of having a computer plot the gradient for me, because the computer gradient's too perfect. I like the texture and slight imperfections from my individual brush strokes when I do a gradient. Generally, there might be exceptions to that, but generally that's the rule, or that's my preference. That's like that's an example of, like, say, technique versus tools. I know there's a gradient tool I can use to do that for me, but in this instance, the technique of me doing it myself, the process of physically manually doing it, is just more satisfying but it's the results that I want. Like if I'm doing a natural environment, having a perfect gradient isn't necessarily going to reflect nature accurately. But like if I was doing some sort of, I don't know, computer environment or something like that, or I don't know. Examples are failing me right now, but there could be circumstances where I need a perfect gradient. So I know that I can use the gradient tool to produce those results if I needed them. Let's add in another layer here. I'm kind of word salading at y'all right now, don't mind me. Half out of pocket, half out of my ass. Let's erase those. Erase those. With any luck, this will be the last forest layer we need to do. Look at that. It's just... it just works out. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I don't want to break my arm patting myself on the back. Don't mind me. Tap and drag. let's erase at the bottom bits. So let's increase the size of our eraser. And then erase at the bits. To lift up. Scratching at the canvas. Keep those edges straight, Karrnath. Here, more gentle smudge down to 30%. Yeah, that's a weaker smudge, so it won't pull pixels as much. Better for fading. That feels pretty good. Yeah, that feels pretty good. Okay, so next we're going to do, get the hillside. I'm going to actually take these tree lines here, pull them in there. Now we're going to take a new layer. Let's grab some of this dark from back here. I'm going to switch our brush. We're going to switch to our chisel brush. You can tell me timer, just because I like the angles on it. And we're going to drop in a ridge line here. That helps just create a frame. Again, we're looking at the composition. Wrong button. Looking at the composition. This is about where the homestead should be at. So let's take this smudgery and flip the brush over. I'm at a 70% strength on the smudge brush, so it's going to push the pixels more than blend. Strong enough that it's just going to grab most of the information. I don't want too much. Bumpity in elevation. It should be tapering off and flattening out around here, but I want a little bit. I don't want it to be a flat plane that cuts across, because that kills the vibe of the energy of the hills coming down. But I want to flatten it out so that it goes from mountains down to hills, down to lowland. It just flattens out like a carpet. So for now, I'm just cutting along the top edge here to define the top of the space. Brush over to use the edge. And I'm going to switch to the cloud brush for blending. I'm going to drop it down to a 30%, and I'm just going to grab and drag using the contours here. Since we have very mild ridges that we've created, we can use those to grab and drag the ink, paint, the pixels, the pigment into the canvas. And just working it into the canvas. I'm going to actually raise it up a smidge. There. And I'll just blend to win. You know what? That doesn't feel quite right. Hold on. Yeah, we're gonna do that. So hold on. I'm scheming. Give me a second. I'm going to take this and let that fade in, but then I'm going to overlay it with that sandier grit. So I'm just sweeping horizontally across the canvas here to work the color into the background. So it has this gradient fade that we're working out here. Now we have that worked in. Click, switch. Hold on. This will probably end up looking pretty good. And just working the angles that we've already built, just using that as our guideline for our contours. Yeah, now see, now it has this greenish look to it. See, the RGB here is showing me a mild green. That's about where we want to actually be with here. So I'll probably drop the opacity on this once we fade it in to have the dark the dark bluishness poke through a little bit more. But that's about what I want it to be. So see, we have this cool little ridge line in here now. These things just kind of dream themselves into existence. Just by working the pigment into the canvas, blending it together, end up making these cool little effects. Just little characters, just little accents. Feels pretty good. overall looks not bad. Continue working this forward, blending this together. Here, and we'll work this forward, blending that in. Let's drop the opacity just a tick and see where we end up. Yeah, that feels pretty good. Just extend this down. I'm using a light opacity on the paintbrush, so I'm only using 20% strength right now, so only 20% of the actual color of the brush is being dropped onto the canvas right now, which makes it real easy for me to blend it in. I'm using a 30% smudge brush, so every time I tap and drag, for every pixel that it moves, it's dropping 30% of, or it's dropping 70% of whatever color information is in that pixel. Continue to add in here and scrape it along. It just starts creating these little, because I'm not trying to use any kind of digital tools to create any kind of a gradient here. The act of me physically doing the brush strokes creates these uneven little ripples in the ground. Just adds to the realism of the piece, and your eye just accepts it more. So yeah, that makes sense. Like that. These two layers together because my heart told me to. And go to a round brush, eraser, 100% strength. I want to just carve along the edge up here. So we can make sure we have a good clean edge. There. Better. All right, cool. Now I can smudge with abandon. Blend, 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 blend. Blend, 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 blend. That's what we do. Blend, blend, blend. I should probably finish off this little bit of forest over here. Just to complete the composition, you know? Not quite feeling it yet. position again. Yep. Where are we at in time? 7:24. Okay, we still got 30 minutes. This is about where I had hoped to beat it at this point. So we're on the proper timeline. That's good. Really just like I really like just pushing that color into the canvas. Really like having just a good thick long tail of a blend down into the page, because again we're going to be doing like wildflowers over this. So I want to have a base soil layer underneath it. We'll have to darken it up a little bit. In Washington State, which is where I live, there's a desert on the east side towards Montana, or towards Idaho, and when you get over to the Cascade Mountains, it spills out and then it becomes basically not quite tundra, but a very arid environment. But in that spot between the mountains and the desert, there's tulip fields. There's a tulip festival that happens each year. So that's my inspiration for this piece, because to me, Karrnath reminds me of the Pacific Northwest. So a lot of my terrain and topography for this region is reminiscent to that. And maybe that's why I was attracted to doing Karrnath in the first place as a setting. Now we're just doing some real heavy blends, just to cap off the line there, just to get it in. There we go. There. Good gradient fade. I'm going to make a new layer here. We're going to grab some of this. We're going to take this and drop it a bit. Using our RGB slider over here, I know this is an off green. It's roughly the same as here. Here. It's roughly the same as here, but now it's darker, right? So I can overlay this. I'm going to grab my grass brush. Too dark. About 40% opacity. And I'm going to just stipple this in so you can see that it has very mild. When I layer it all together like this, it makes just like a little bit of a gritty texture. And that's all at this distance on the horizon line here in front of the forest. This is the maximum amount of texture that I want for the ground. I want it to be very, very mild. I don't want it to stand out a lot, but I also want your eye to be able to be capable of picking up on it, even if you aren't really paying attention to it. And I've got this ridge line here, so I'm focusing this texture on the back side of this ridge line. Because again, looking at the composition, these homesteads sit right along this ridge line here. So I have this as a background here to blend between this mid-ground and the background hillside forest. See, I'm just following the contours, just creating little bubbities, little bounces. It's the curved nature of the brush. It just naturally lends itself to making these little curved effects. Go figure. So the way that the brushes are designed, they're meant to complement the natural angles and tendencies. Like this is a grass brush. When I do multiple layers like this stacking up on top of each other, it creates a grassy field sort of effect. Very low intensity. Well, we have to actually add more details to make it work. But as a base foundation, it works really well. And the curve to it creates just natural pockets, like indentures and very, very mild rises that just prevent it from being just like a flat plane, from just cutting across the page. Having a mild curve to it, and I can kill the curve by reducing the like it's got a mild curve here, but if I adjust the wheel, that's upside down. Hold on, back here. By reducing the I don't know what that term is. By squishing the circle, it squishes the curve in the line in the brush, so it becomes an even plane. So I have that option. It's difficult to make an even plane look curved, but using this method, using this type of a tool, I can make an arc flatten out into a straight line, and then it becomes a textured line. So if I need straight topography, if I need a straight line across with some sort of grassiness, like a flat grassy plane, I can do that with this same brush by squishing the circular nature of the arc, by flattening the arc, I think is probably the term I was trying to use. And I'm just gonna sparsely toss some of this in here like that. Let it spill down here a little bit like that. Let this spill down a little bit here like this. There we go. And again, I think what I want to do is lightly smudge along the base here, just to work that into the canvas a little bit. So we're just grabbing and dragging again along the lines of the contours that we already created to help emphasize the curve of the terrain. Dragging, and basically a little X, like you see on Bob Ross, we're doing like little X patterns like this as we crisscross inside the terrain here. And then we blend across, and X, here, then we blend, drop, here, blend, oops, wrong brush, that's an eraser. Here, drop down, just grabbing at the edge of these, and then cross hatching, and then parallel here, and then cross hatch, and then blend, angle, and then cross hatch, and blend, angle, cross hatch, and blend, angle, cross hatch, blend. There we go. There, that's starting to feel a little bit better. Next thing I want to do is let's add in homesteads. So wish me luck. We're going to go to our references here. We have homestead building that we created, so we're going to grab this darker bit here initially to create the silhouettes. Let's go to Mountain Razor. It's got a squaredness to it. 100% opacity. Forest. And now we're doing homesteads. Razor here as an edge. Something like that. Across, feels good. Here. Let's grab This is darker than I think I want it to be. So hopefully, once we add the texture, it'll smooth it out a little bit. That's about where I want this though. That's good. Here. Just fill that in. Cut across here with that line. Across here with the line. Drop this down here like that. See, it's too dark for where it's at in the environment. It needs to be a faded color. So we're just using this as our base block, and then we're going to use a lighter, a higher value or a more closer to white. Value is higher value on a scale of 0 to 10. 0 is black, 10 is white. So a higher value color to help fade this into, like, because this is too stark compared to the rest of, like, if I remove these, this composition looks pretty good. But when I add these in, you can tell how faded all of this is back here. So I want to make sure that this isn't so hard silhouette against the rest of the piece. But this is also going to push me to do a little bit more forest here back. That's going to be somewhere between this and this, wherever this ends up at, to help transition from far back faded with environment with atmosphere to the foreground, which is crisp and vibrant and saturated. So I want this to be like a mid desaturated hue when we get to that point, which will be not this week. It'll be, I got like 10 minutes left at best. So we'll pick up the rest of this after the weekend. So I stream Monday through Friday in the mornings like this. I also do game design work for Dungeons and Dragons. I publish on the DMsGuild. There's a bunch of books down below that I've already published. You got a bunch more on the way, including this adventure for Eberron. But I do game design on Mondays and Thursday nights like last night, as well as on Mondays and Friday lunchtimes, including today. So I'm going to be back on. It's almost 8 o'clock here in Seattle. I got to go do my day job. I'll be back later on today, like around 2:30 to mess around with the new Unearthed Arcana for D&D, the arcane subclasses that they are releasing as playtest content. We're going to go through that content and modify it for use with the color mana spell point system that we have on DMsGuild. That feels pretty good. I like that. I feel like it needs to be pushed back a little bit though. This into the environment as well. Take away its hard base. Nope. There, like that. There. Fade that in. Hey, what's up? Hey, Danny. Thanks, Danny. It's a hobby within a hobby within a hobby, right? I do freelance. I like to paint. I like the DM. I like to paint and DM. I like to paint what I DM, and I like to make books about the type of games I like to play. So I've been playing and running D&D since 1987. So I've almost got 40 years underneath my belt of running games like this. And I obviously have my own opinions about how to run games and what's a good play experience, and I like to back it up by actually like building tools to run games the way that I like to run them. I'm gonna grab that line there, here, and here. So I play D&D every other week in a Curse of Strahd campaign. I have a weekly table that I run with coworkers at my day job as like a lunch break that we run. We call it lunchtime adventures. And then I have my playtest team that runs different stuff that I'm in the process of publishing that needs to be tested. The playtest team is on my Discord channel. So I run D&D twice a week, once as just casual fun, the other one as playtest material for books that I publish, and then every other week I play in a Curse of Strahd campaign, just so I can remember how much I love the DM. Like, nothing reminds you how much you love the DM like playing. Nothing reminds you how much you like to play like DMing. It's a feedback loop. I want to fade that out, actually. Like that, and then push this here like that. I don't have to get too crazy on the architecture here right now. I just want to make sure that it's plausible. You know, that's all I need right now. Just plausible geometry. Hey, what's up? How do you manage that many groups? I can hardly manage one. Well, when I'm playing, I don't have to think at all. And playing takes zero effort. I just show up and eat pretzels and snark jokes and kill shit. So playing is easy, but running a game, the home table that I run, the casual for fun, it's 90% improv. It takes about 5 minutes for me to craft an adventure that'll take like 6 hours to play, but most of it is just improvised and inspiration driven by whatever. I'll throw out an idea, the team will interact with it, and then hilarity ensues for the next few hours. Playtesting, though, that's actually a lot more organized. I have to like build maps and shit, and that takes time. So there is, especially in a tactical game like D&D, like at my home casual table, my coworkers, it's coworkers. We're messing around during our lunch break. I don't have time for a big setup, so it's all theater of the mind. So that takes off a lot of production stress. All I have to really do is have a general idea about what's the adventure about, have a few rudimentary notes about major characters in the adventure, and what their motives are, and what the threats are, and where the complications are at, and then just let the rest of the content just kind of flow. But when I'm playtesting, like we're playtesting Martial Powers right now, which is a highly tactical system inside the 5e game game engine. It's designed to increase tactical depth and to give martials more meaningful decisions during combat than I swing my sword, I push, I reposition. There's a lot more I can do because you have this mana pool to expend on different effects. So, but we're still using the 5e tactical grid. That means I have to actually have like a game, a battlefield environment for the characters to run around inside of, which means I need to spend time building maps with monsters, populating it and checking my CR, and on top of having a rudimentary plot. So I don't like running playtesting as just like static, like you're gonna fight 6 goblins in this room, go for it. Like, if there's gonna be 6 goblins in a room, I want to make a room. I want to have a dungeon with it. I want it to be like a live fire environment where you can actually mess around. So we have to build the parameters of what the campaign is about. Role playing and character development is heavily de-emphasized because it is playtesting. But being able to see how the characters interact, like the decisions that the players make and how they interact with the challenges that I present them with, having a loose narrative structured around it makes the medicine go down easy. They're still playing a mega dungeon, and I structured the mega dungeon for the playtest like I would run like in 2nd or 3rd edition. It's got traps, and there's a story that's going on inside of it that gets kind of revealed as they explore more space and interact with it and start conjecturing about like what's this place for. And like I ran into Lithids recently that have Umber Hulks under their control, and there's a colony of kobold resistance fighters, and there's a Myconid colony. There's a phase spider lair that's been hunting the players as they explore the dungeon. So there's like a lot going on and things for them to fuck around with, and a variety of different type of creatures for them to fight and stuff. But you got to put it all together. So I just make the time. You just got to make the time for it. And that's my, what is it, 750? Yep. So I'm going to turn off my alarm. I'm going to ask the Muse if she can find a stopping point for me. That feels pretty good. So that's a decent start. That's a decent starting spot for, I'll probably have like another one back here somewhere. Here's my composition. So these are sitting pretty nicely inside the piece. I'm going to grab this guy and just drag him over a smidge. There. Let's clean him up for a second. I've got 1,000 years worth of content I want to produce, and I only have about 20 years left to make it, so I have to prioritize what's important to me. And then you just get the thing done. You just keep moving forward every day, make some progress on whatever it is that you're working on, and eventually it's done. And then you move on to the next thing. That feels really good. Okay, great. So that's set there. We're going to, again, here's the homestead map that we're using. So I can use this color pattern for our rooftop. Railing and stuff, we can add that in. So we'll be able to lighten this, lighten the hues so it blends a little bit better into the background. But then once we get that done, we'll want to increase the saturation of the nearby trees so that it looks like it's closer to the actual tree line. So we'll add in another layer of trees to go along here that's darker, that kind of transitions from this faded forest here towards this darker saturation here. And again, as we keep moving forward in the piece, we'll have all the, hold on, composition. Yeah, that's about right. And then we'll have the wildflower fields here, and then here at the base, like we have the text concluding the adventure and continuing the campaign. Commentary there. We'll have the ridge line here with some shrubbery, and then rosemary bushes here to help break the frame. So it'll be a good concise piece. So far, so good. We're looking good. We're looking good. I may be able to de-emphasize these mountains a little bit, drop them down, perhaps. Let's just take a second and fuck around with that. I could drop these guys in elevation a little bit like that. I think I like it. I think I like it like that, though. I think I like that. All right, we're gonna let that go. So this is where we're at for now. When we come back on Monday to continue with this piece, we'll finish the homesteads, and then we'll transition from the far back forest and the homesteads. That space in between is also forest, so we'll have another layer of more saturated forest to bridge that mid-ground gap. That we'll probably have a little bit of space then after that to start in on the wildflower field, and we'll see where it goes. There's a lot of potential here. It's not guaranteed to be awesome, but so far so good. So what, you know? Looking good. So this is like a little sparse over here, but again, this is going to end up being covered up with rosemary bush, so that's not actually really important. Just enough color information back there to add some interest in case anything pokes through. That's all we really need back there right now. Definitely want to increase the darkness and the saturation for the forest closer to the homesteads, but we'll get there. It's work in progress, so we're coming along. Do you use a lot of custom homebrew content getting washed out by AI slop? Do you see a lot of custom homebrew content getting washed out? Oh, hi Ryan, welcome back. Washed out by AI slop over time, like how kids miss out on a lot of older music because there's so much more of it now. On the DMsGuild, the DMsGuild actively says if you're using AI, we are not going to promote you in our newsletters, and we're not going to promote you on social media. I've been building content on the DMsGuild for 7 years, so I have a decent relationship built with the production staff, and I tag them every day in my social media posts, so I'm constantly pushing their signal, so they know that I'm going to produce 1 or 2 pieces a year. When I do, it generally gets promoted. So I do custom book covers, all the artwork interiors custom. I do all the writing, the layouts, the play testing. I don't edit my own work. I hire editors for that. But otherwise, I pretty much lead everything on it, and I make it all 100% free preview for everyone to see everything. So the whole composition, the entire book ends up being a piece of art, and each individual page is broken down into smaller and smaller segments of art. So in my own experience, I don't feel I have an issue at all of having my signal boosted, because I very much lean into handcrafting everything and dive into crazy levels of detail of stuff. So the quality of work that I put out is high, and the quality of imagery that helps visualize that work is also very high. So I never feel like I have an issue with my stuff getting seen. And I also do hyper specific stuff. So like in Reddit, conversations will crop up, like, you know, I'm trying to figure out like how to do this combat thing for the Spelljammer deal. I'm trying, well, hey, check out this free preview, page 57. You can check out these mechanics on like fleet combat or whatever. Go check that out, and if you have any questions, ask me anything. So all the work that I build is meant to solve a problem that 5e hasn't tackled. And I specifically work in 5e because I love that game engine. So all the work that I do is designed to solve problems that, as a 38-year DM, I see, hey, these tools don't exist in 5e, but if these tools did exist, I could run this sort of a campaign. So I'll run that sort of a campaign as a playtest, and from that I'll extract all these lessons that I learned, and then I'll boil those all down into a book, and then I'll illustrate the book and I'll publish it, so it solves a specific problem. So I don't just kick out stuff there. Everything that I do has a very specific purpose and an intentional feel for like the type of campaign and blah blah blah. I don't just do generic stuff. So it's all hyper specific, which may limit how relevant it is to any particular audience. But it's designed, like we talked about before, it's designed to hit a specific audience. So when I find that audience, my stuff can worm in there, and it's like, this is a good reference piece for the people that are interested in this type of campaign. And then it becomes a touchstone, or kind of like a flagship, to be able to build other ideas around. So a good supplement inspires more supplements. Like, here's an idea, and from that idea you can riff off of and create all these different ideas that end up spilling into another idea that then creates another cascade of stuff. But I'm out of time, so I can't dive in further. I gotta go. But I was looking at your Bastion stuff, and one of your streams was linked. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, you are. We'll be getting back to the Bastion. The Bastion campaign book is going to be the next one that I publish after we finish this one. So we'll be working on the martial power system and the revised color mana system for 2024. We'll be building that in tandem with actually publishing the Bastion book. So the Bastion book will be the next book we actually illustrate and build out here in the mornings. But I need to get done with the Eberron book, this Eberron book first. So we'll get there. So stick around, ask questions, jump in my Discord channel if you're interested. Yada 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 yada. And I'll be back today at 2:30 in 6.5 hours to work on the to convert the arcane subclasses that were released in the Unearthed Arcana playtest content yesterday. We're translating that into the mana system that I have on DMsGuild, just to see how they're updating the system and how complementary it is to our design principles here. So that's how you go. Right on, man. That's what we do. It's I make a book and I fill it with art. So every book is an excuse for me to make more art. Every piece of art is an excuse for me to make another book. So I'll see you guys in the future. Cheers.